Hello, everyone. We've got people raising hands already. It's really great to see everyone. Hi there, I'm Ali Beddoes. I'm the CEO and Artistic Director at Lighthouse and also now BDF. I hope you're doing all right in the midst of everything. Thank you so much for coming. This is the first BDF Town Hall of 2021. And a note to say that today is being recorded so that we can share it on the BDF website as a resource and for anyone who isn't able to join us today and would like to watch later. We're going to present this meeting in two sections. So first, we're talking through the plans for BDF. We're going to hear from some of our friends and collaborators and the opportunities that are available for getting involved in the festival. You'll see just the panelists for this first section, and you're very welcome to use the Q&A box to log your questions as we go along. And then we'll come to those answers in the second part, where we will invite all of the attendees of this session to have your screens on. It's totally up to you. And then we'll invite you to unmute if you'd like to speak. When we get to that point, can you raise your hand symbol if you'd like to speak, or in real life, that's fine. So last year, Brighton Digital Festival transitioned to become a seasonal programme directed by Lighthouse, rather than an existing independent company. As well as a global pandemic, over the last few years, it's been a struggle to fund an independent organisation that engages with all the different people, businesses and institutions who make up Brighton's creative community. We are looking to hold on to much of the legacy and the spirit of the previous iterations of BDF through the next stage. We know that Brighton and Hove is home to a thriving digital and creative sector. It's a city that is overflowing with talent and ideas, and it's full of potential. Brighton Digital Festival will continue to harness this creativity and support groundbreaking and innovative collaborations which are part of the very fabric of our city. This year is the 10th edition of the festival, and we want to make it a really special one. We're delivering a major collaboration with two other digital festivals, Freedom Festival in Hull and Frequency Festival in Lincoln, to co-commission a range of outdoor digital artworks. We'll hear more from Sam Lindley of Frequency Festival, who's our lead partner, shortly. We want BDF to genuinely reflect the city and to bring as many different voices and experiences to the programme. We're really lucky and honoured to have secured sponsorship from Brandwatch and MPB, who are supporting the festival to explore creativity and tech and innovation and to carve out a genuine space for employment and new connections. This year, Brighton Digital Festival itself is not receiving public money. However, we see the festival programme as offering a public service to the city and beyond. Therefore, we see all events that are part of BDF to be accountable to present experiences for everyone. And we should all work continuously to provide both digital and physical spaces where people feel safe. We're working in challenging times, so we ask, how can we execute big ideas if we haven't been given the chance to try small ones? So whilst at some points it might not come from a place of perfection all of the time, it comes from a place of innovation, creativity, collective imagining, and adaptation through lived experiences. And we see this as an opportunity to make a permanent change and a real change to the way that the city programmes and creates opportunities for people to be involved. Some of the themes and topics that we're hearing from our friends and collaborators so far are well-being in the digital culture, how we create powerful boundaries held in a positive way. So what's that equilibrium between home and work? Welcome to my spare room. Occupying inclusive and creative, safe new spaces, challenging inequalities and dominant norms of digital culture, connecting and collaborations with other sectors in the city, employability in the city, showcasing talent, developing experiences, and cultural recovery for the city and the creative sector. So I'm really delighted that we're going to be joined this evening by some of our brilliant friends and collaborators in the city and beyond. Sam Lindley, who is our lead partner for Digital Democracies and Director of Programmes at Threshold Studios. Pollyanna Gifford and Tarek El-Mutawakil, who's from Marlborough Theatre, who'll be talking about their role in the ABCD Cultural Recovery Plan. Ned Archibong from QM Records, who's talking through the Moves Festival and how it might be part of BDF programme. Luciana Haill, who's talking about her project Pioneer and how it's moving forward in its development as part of BDF. And last but not least, Helen Kennedy, Professor of Creative and Cultural Industries at Nottingham University. Everyone has about 10 minutes each. I'm going to be quite strict. And then we'll have a short break to regroup, open it up for Q&A. And we welcome all thoughts and deliberations from you. So raise your hand and we'll come to you. And here I'm introducing you to Amy Osborne, our festival producer. Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody. Hello. I am the newly appointed producer of the Brighton Digital Festival, and I am in my third week of this role, and I'm super excited by what is going to be a really diverse programme for the festival, including all the city-led activity delivered by the amazing talent of the digital community of Brighton and Hove. I'm going to do my best to facilitate this event, so bear with. We'll be hearing shortly from our collaborators, so feel free to write your questions in the Q&A section, and we will go through these at the end when the whole panel has presented. After the break, we'll come back and do that. And then we're going to go through some next steps. So we are working in the background on the new BDF website, which will go live on the 4th of August. And through that, we will be showing you how to submit your proposals, your applications, and to briefly run through how that works. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, who is Sam Lindley, lead partner of Digital Democracies and Director of Programmes at Threshold Studios. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I just needed to check I didn't need to start with clearing my throat. Yeah, thank you so much for having us. As been mentioned, my name's Sam. I am Director of Programmes for Threshold Studios. We are a creative and cultural agency who are based in the Midlands, who use digital technology, creativity and inclusion to create space for change. One of the key ways that we do this is through our festival, Frequency, which is based in Lincoln, and it's our 10th birthday this year as well. So happy birthday, BDF. Let's have a joint party. Yeah, we're looking good for 10, right? So I'm here today to talk to you about the Digital Democracies programme, which we are fortunate enough to be partnering with Freedom Festival and Brighton Digital Festival and ourselves as Frequency Festival. So I've tried to keep this kind of brief. I've gone for the who, what, where, when, why approach. Let's see how it goes. So if we can just move on to the next slide, please. Can we? Thank you. So I think the best thing to do is to start with what is Digital Democracies. And the slide answers the question. It's a national project which we're leading alongside Brighton Digital and Freedom Festival to explore the intersection of technology, art and public space by looking at development and testing of digital work for public and outdoor spaces. We're also connected with a set of civic, cultural, education and tech partners. So we can look at the benefits and the impacts on place and people kind of beyond the cultural sector, but how we can contribute at this point to the rebuilding of our public spaces, how we can work with audiences on the level of their comfort. This project was due to launch in April of last year, but what happened. So where we were looking through that, we re-examined the project, we re-examined the mechanisms of the project and question the relevancy of the project as well. And the key thing that it came to is that actually this project stood up in terms of relevancy, and perhaps even where we'd originally thought about concepts, the need was actually greater. Because in terms of how we contribute to the rebuilding, in terms of what the cultural sector and innovation and creativity can bring to multi-partnership approaches to animate our spaces, to work with people, to benefit positively on place, it actually felt like now is the time to really start testing, to really start trying things out. And in a lot of ways, we've been making the case collectively that, especially with digital work, iteration of work makes the work better. So we have this touring network and we have this opportunity to seed an idea, to take it to new places. Where we've worked with audiences and where audiences have given us insight, we're now in a position as well to almost start rebuilding those data sets, to start understanding where people are. And we can do that on different levels through listening exercises, but we can also do that through connection to work. And really, what we talked about with digital democracies is, if I can go on to the next slide, what is the vision that we're trying to achieve? And what we're working towards is, we know at the moment we have a first stage of the project, but the aim is to keep the project going, to keep the initiative going, and to support and foster collaborative communities that benefit from this work, that benefits from the information being generated from the inside, from the outside, and that we take a user-centered design approach. The people who are participating, the people who are coming, we're not saying at this point that the project is perfect. We're saying we want to have a two-way dialogue with you. Help us understand it, help us shape it, help us understand where we're not understanding or where we're not seeing something potentially. And then the idea of that is to create radically inclusive public cultural experiences, that everything we do should be underpinned by inclusivity, that we should work from the idea of understanding where barriers are. Because when you bring artists and creatives into that placemaking agenda and you look at social issues, you look at how to deal with people, you are a community of people that foster innovation in a way that is completely unique. And actually, where we create a space to test and to try with trust, then we can really start to push forward with this, and as a sector really start to make that difference that we need to see about who's not being represented, who's not there at the table, who do we need to make space for in terms of audiences and in terms of artists, creativity and partnership. So it's not a fixed structure, but it is a fixed vision in that respect. So that sounds great, right? So moving on to the next slide of, so how are we doing that in the first instance? Thank you very much. We've had to pivot part of the programme because obviously safety for audiences and safety for participants are key concerns, key issues that we need to be addressing. So Digital Democracies 1.0 as it stands is made up of the following 4 elements. At the heart of the programme is a commissioning programme. If you follow any of our social channels, if you don't, that's fine. I've got the information at the end. You can pick that up. You may have seen some opportunities coming out through the programme. And we've commissioned 4 pieces of work at the moment and have another 3 or 4 pieces going into development. And as well in that commissioning programme, we're exploring how we can use rapid prototyping, how we can use community co-development techniques to build a slate of activity in year 1, which is kind of year 2, but you get what I mean, because 2020 was moot in a lot of ways. And commissioning is what's driving us forward. How can we R&D? How can we test? And then the second element of this is an artist development programme, which we have now taken online, and we are looking at hands-on masterclasses in the virtual realm, which is a new arena to be stepping into, and where I talk about this user-centered design approach, this is really an amazing place to have that conversation to happen. And the hands-on masterclasses it's an opportunity to kind of dig into some parts of technology, some parts of practice that may intersect with some of your practice. It's not about a full module that will give you a complete overview and training, but perhaps in terms of the partnerships and collaborations that you shape, it may give you a new vocabulary or a new understanding. We're looking at some tech deep dives, which is the opportunity to really geek out on some things, to be honest, to really kind of get under the surface of where people are innovating. And one thing we have seen over the last year is like a sharp incline in innovation. People have made the most of the time, and where are we bringing out open source tools? Where are people pushing the boundaries of their practice? Discussion and editorial. There needs to be conversation around this as well, because commissioning and development can help us understand part of it, but there's still a wider agenda. There's still a wider picture. And if we're going to talk about a democratic program in this respect, we have to have a place and a forum to dig into this further. So actually, where are the challenges in new virtual spaces for underrepresented communities? Where is marginalization occurring in spaces that we don't know about? And we want to create a space where we can bring those voices forward and share that. And then the final part of it is talent and skills incubation. So actually, how can we use some of the design processes or some of the learning that we are going through now to actually support those future generations of talent who are coming through in challenging times and are going to be adapting to futures that I think we can't really scope at this point. So actually, how can we use the lived experience of the people that we're working with to foster and nurture those next generations, and how can we grow that ambition? And then my next slide, please. This is it. So that's the brief overview, but our website has just gone live literally the other day, so close to the wire. Which the address is there for digitaldemocracies.co.uk. So you can read into the project a little bit more. You can find out about some of the commissions that we're working with. Any opportunities that the project's presenting will be put through those portals. And if you just want to come and have a chat to us, if you know, this talk just wasn't enough for you, then please do reach out, because I'm really, really happy to chat to whoever in respect to this. And in terms of building that community, let's start having the conversation. And the next slide as well, we'll also be putting out information about the projects on these channels. So if you want to screen grab this for your reference, these are the handles of all the partners who are part of the project. And I should mention as well that actually our associate Donna Close is really integral in developing this project as well, and she would have been here this evening, but I'm representing for her as well. And then last slide is my last bit. Thank you. These are the festivals where the work is going to be presented. Hell are restrictions at the moment. You know, working in outdoor spaces, we are looking at commissioning models that can work under restrictions. We're thinking about how we can keep creativity and opportunity going, and the artists that we're working with as part of these programs, we're so grateful to them for sort of taking this leap of faith with us and getting involved. And yeah, if, you know, when festival season hits, here's 3 festivals you might want to come and visit. And yeah, that endeth my presentation, really. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Yeah, you can. That was amazing. Thank you so much, Sam. Really interesting. And we can always share all your handles and things afterwards in case you didn't get them all then. So next we have Polly and Tarek. Can I ask you to take your... Excuse me one moment. Hi guys. Get your presentation.
Everyone, really nice to be here, and thanks very much to Ali and Amy for having us along. I was going to say let's have the first slide, but maybe not. So yes, we are here on behalf of the ABCD plan for cultural recovery. If I could have the next slide, please. So I'm Polly Gifford. I am the freelance program manager. I've been working with the plan since sort of the end of March. And also here is Tarek, who you may know, who's co-artistic director of Marlborough Productions and also co-chairs one of the working groups under the ABCD program. I don't know who knows what about ABCD, so I'm just going to give a very quick gallop through for those who haven't come across it yet. So last year in Brighton and Hove, there was a citywide consultation with over 100 organisations and individuals, which was supported by the City Council and the Arts Council. And that contributed to what's now called the ABCD Plan for Cultural Recovery. And the plan lays out how the sector might recover from the pandemic and find more sustainable and inclusive ways to grow in the future. And now there is a very broad and diverse group of industry professionals, both organisations and freelancers, who are championing the delivery of the plan, and really brought together by the belief that creative businesses and workers will be at the forefront of the city's recovery. I can have the next slide, please. So the overarching aims of the plan are to create paid work for creative practitioners in the city, being really clear that people have been hit incredibly hard, and we want to be able to kickstart some activity and get some work to freelancers and organisations. To develop a more inclusive cultural offer and a more diverse creative sector. And at the heart of all the projects that are being developed is about encouraging partnership working, collaboration, and to test out new ideas, ways of working that can hopefully have a longer impact beyond the time-limited frame of the ABCD plan itself. Next slide, please. So the activity is divided into 5 interconnected strands, which directly came out of the consultation meetings that happened last year. You have Engine Room, which addresses ideas around entrepreneurship, business growth, and is designed specifically for creative and cultural workers living and working in Brighton and Greater Brighton. Enliven Brighton aims to work with creative and cultural businesses and practitioners to animate the city centre, and very much joining that conversation about the future of city centres and the future of high streets and what they actually need to look like to be not only viable, but actually to thrive in the future, and what the role of creativity is in that. The Creative Communities Network looks to support all of the community-led programming that happens around the city, and particularly looking at the infrastructure that can enable more of that work to happen. Space to Grow looks at the ever knotty subject of space in the city for creative and cultural activity and businesses. And then the Creative Worker Income Guarantee hopes to be a research project to look at the idea of a universal income guarantee for creative workers. So working groups for the first 3 strands have been meeting since the end of March. And there is a governance group that has oversight, and you can see the details of who sits on all the groups, along with the plan itself on the Culture in Our City website. And also the Culture in Our City website has a monthly newsletter, and if you sign up to that, you will get all the latest information, not only on the ABCD plan, but on all sorts of other opportunities that are happening around the city. If I could have the next slide, please. There are various lenses that the ABCD plan and the programs that we're hoping to support is going to use to assess the ideas. And these represent the values that came out of the consultation and the values that underpin the plan. And all of the projects will be required to engage with ideas around inclusion and diversity and environmental sustainability. And then they will also address some of these other values and lenses that are listed here. So we've been busy fundraising for projects, and we are now able to put out our first project briefs, which is really exciting, actually doing some stuff, and we'll say a bit more about those in a moment. And the ABCD plan has no formal structure. It's a partnership and a collaboration. So all of the projects will be contracting organisations in the city to deliver the work and the opportunities for artists. And that's sort of the model that we're using. And we anticipate that recovery, meaningfully is going to last through most of next year. And that's the time limit we've set for the ABCD plan, is running to the end of next year. So I'm going to hand over to Tarek, who is going to say a bit more about the Enliven Brighton strand, and also about some of the projects that you did.
Yes, my internet just suddenly went weird, so hopefully you can all hear me now. For a minute you all disappeared. Hi, I'm Tarek, and I'm just going to give you a brief introduction to the Enliven Brighton strand. So the Enliven Brighton strand is the one in which the following two opportunities I will be mentioning shortly have come from. Aims to work with the creative and cultural businesses and practitioners in Brighton, animating the city centre, giving a vital boost to the city's retail economy and making it a more attractive and rewarding destination to visit. The programming is delivered in partnership with the brilliant Brighton Business Improvement District, or the BID. Embedded into the delivery is the aim to be future-focused and entrepreneurial, understanding how the environment has changed and which skills and resources are required to change with it. Most importantly within the plan is a commitment from the sector to developing ways of working that are more inclusive, collaborative and sustainable, acknowledging historic power imbalances and using this moment to address them. So the two submissions we are looking for are a new monthly events platform, First Thursdays is what the first one is called, which will present new outdoor commissions and invite partners to contribute their own programming, with a pilot season running from November 21 to March 22. And the second one is an alternative tours, which will extend the welcome to marginalised communities, celebrating the unique mix that is Brighton. So I'll give you a bit more information about the alternative tours. It's a contract. The contract for the alternative tours is for an organisation to develop and deliver a series of 4 alternative tours that offer new perspectives of the city and highlight the enlivened Brighton city. And Brighton activity, such as First Thursdays. Examples of previous tours that are popular in the city that have existed are things like the Ghost Tour and local heritage tours. The tours will be led by artists and developed with marginalised communities outside the city centre, so organisations are commissioning artists and communities. It's important that the exchange between artists and communities is meaningful and equitable. We want the tours to encourage people from partner communities to feel welcome and safe exploring the city centre and feel an increased sense of ownership of their city, as well as appealing to other visitors. The contractor will need to demonstrate their ability to reach and collaborate with marginalised communities. Beyond this pilot project, there is a potential to extend availability of the tours to a wider paying audience. So just very quickly, the expected outputs would be 4 artists commissioned to develop and lead the tours, 4 tours, each delivered a minimum of 4 times with a minimum of 10 participants from target communities on each tour, so 160 people, and a report documenting, oh, that's a timer telling me you've got not any time left, a report documenting project spend, outputs and outcomes, and there is a 23 grand budget for that. With an additional £5,000 from the Pebble Trust to support the commissioning of young artists from diverse backgrounds. And then swiftly moving on to First Thursdays. This contract is for an organisation to act as producer for the pilot of the First Thursdays season, to be delivered between November 21 and March 22. The contractor will establish the model for the First Thursdays platform. And will also commission and present new outdoor projections in the public realm and encourage existing venues, organisations and businesses in the city centre to contribute activities and events. First Thursdays will launch in November 21 in partnership with the Brighton Digital Festival. The contractor will work with the Enliven Brighton Working Group and the BID team to identify sites in the BID area. That's coming down from Brighton Station, bits of West Street, Western Road, and some of the North Lanes. I think it's also potentially expanding a little bit as well. These are envisaged as small, agile interventions that respond to the unique urban geography of the city. We want people to feel welcome in the city centre and inspired by the creativity on show. On first Thursdays, people will be encouraged to stay in the city centre for longer and explore more of the area than they might have otherwise. And importantly, people will be inspired to return the following month for more first Thursdays. And the expected outcomes or outputs for that are 5 first Thursdays events delivered in the bid area of the city, which you can find online at the brilliantbrighton.com website. At least 15 artists supported through micro commissions, with at least 20% from diverse backgrounds or with diverse lived experience, and 20% who haven't worked in the public realm before. 15 projection sites trialled, 15 businesses host or engage with the cultural activity, an audience target of around 4,000 per event over the course of an evening, and a report documenting project spend outputs and outcomes. And that also, I believe, has a £23,000 budget attached to it. And that is my presentation.
Thanks.
I think that's it for those 2 slides.
I think we could skip past the next one, which just lists what Tarek's been talking about, and just go to the last one. Thank you. So I suggest just to add to what Tarek was saying, what we envisage for the first Thursdays is that a lot of it will happen outdoors, particularly because there may still be issues around the impacts of the pandemic, and we are envisaging that digital projection forms a very strong part of the micro commissioning. Hence our real interest in working with BDF to launch this, and we are working away at raising additional funding, and we're actually waiting for quite a lot of funding decisions to come in from people like Arts Council to enhance the commissioning budgets for artists to create work to present on first Thursdays. So hopefully it will grow and develop over the months that it after it launches. So all of the details are on the Culture in Our City website under the Opportunities tab. So do go and have a look at those. My contact is there if there are any questions. The Creative Brighton, which is the Culture in Our City Twitter, do follow us. And as I said earlier, do sign up for the newsletter to get updates, because there will be some more commissions coming on stream, both next week and once we start hearing about different funding. Thank you. That is it.
Lovely. Thank you very thank you very much, Tarek. He's just put his picture up. And thanks, Polly. That was brilliant. Right. Shall we move on to visit Ned at QM Records? Show yourself, please, Ned. Where are you?
Hey.
Could you put your video on, please, Ned?
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's good.
Cool.
I'm just going to get your slides up. Bear with.
All right.
You all right to go? Thanks.
Yes, I'm okay to go. Yes. So, yeah, we are. My name's Ned, basically, and I run a business called QM Records. Me and my business partner Nicholson started off as we were in a band, and then we decided to start a label, being in the band, and then Moods Festival is a festival which celebrates music and culture in Brighton. So we'll just go through. David, can you help me go through the slides? Next slide.
Ned, can I just ask you if you could just keep near the microphone as much as possible, because your audio is going in and out. That would be lovely. Thank you.
Right. Is this better?
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you.
All right, no worries. Yes. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so before chatting about how we're going to collaborate with Brighton Digital Festival, I just thought it'd be great to give a quick historic background of of our company and I guess why we started Moves and our interest in the music and the creative scene and how that inspired us to start Moves Festival. So quick history, QM Records was formed in 2013, and the pre-QM we were in a band called Normanton Street, and we still are in a band called Normanton Street. And that came about from us living on Normanton Street, starting a band, and we decided to name the band after the street we was living on at the time, which is a street in Brighton. And because we wasn't getting many shows at the time, we decided to start putting on our own shows, and then we started releasing our own music, and then that led us to do more further afield, getting bookings in different places. And then that sort of created the QM vibe, I guess. And then that led to us having other artists performing for our shows, us releasing other artists, working with other creatives, including photographers, videographers, graphic designers, dancers, and then led us to creating Moves TC. So yeah, so what we do with the QM. So on the next slide, actually, sorry. It's quite strange not doing the slides. All right, yeah. So can we go back? Sorry. Go back one slide. Okay. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, cool. So basically, what is Moves? So Moves is about music, media, and culture. As a musician, especially when we're starting out, we didn't really understand where music fits in the whole cultural sort of framework or etc. So with Moves, we like to bring everything together into one space. So it's just about creating a wider convo with music and what's around music, so it's about, we have performances, exhibitions, and talks. We have lots of musicians playing. So we have like bands, rappers, singers. Basically, we put together the scene. Who's had a good year perform. Then along with that, we invite photographers, videographers to display new works that they've got. Then we also have music video screenings, and we also have talks where new ideas are discussed, probably from the year before, or looking forward also. So it's all about focusing on the local, and why we do this is sometimes we miss what's on our doorstep from looking so far away sometimes. So it's really about looking at what talent is coming through in the city, putting a platform on for those talents to really shine, and just making sure that the lineup is well represented of the local spark from the previous year. But then we've got to connect to the national and the international, especially at the grassroots level. So in the previous Moves events, so in 2017, we had a great link up with Iggy Magazine, which is a magazine based in Paris. And some of the results from that link up was some of the acts that played was the magazine put them on in Paris, because that was the first time they had a chance to come over to Brighton and check out these certain artists. So yeah, so we like to do that as well. So connecting that aspect of it with the festival. We also have like PR companies come to do the talks. We also have other bands from other scenes coming together. More recently, probably more over the pandemic, we connected a lot with the music scene. Few musicians in the Mumbai scene, just to learn about what's happening over there, and also very well connected a bit more in the Lagos scene as well. This year, that'll obviously be tough to bring all that together, because obviously we've had a pandemic and things are not moving as normal. But I guess that could always be the digital element of it, of thinking of ways that we can connect these other scenes as well. So can we go to the next slide? Yes, so previous moves events, we've worked in 2 different venues. We've done patterns, which was both upstairs and downstairs, where we had talks on upstairs. We had videos, photography exhibitions upstairs, and we had a concert downstairs. Then we've also done one in Old Market, where we took over the old space and had both rooms, similar thing. We had displays, a big show, then also had talks and stuff as well. And can we go to the next slide? Yeah, so these are these are images from the previous moves. We can just go through this quickly. Yeah, so that's a talk I went on. It was about gender equality in the music business. Yes. Yeah, so these are some of the artists that played. Bobby Johnson, some very prominent local artists. One Eye Jacks, One Eye Jacks, Anta Knox. So there's lots here. So can we go to the next slide? Yes, and that's the event we did at the Old Market. We had Lauren Joy Kennett, Erin James, Kezia, all more visual artists, photography, film, displaying artwork as well. We had a dance crew down. Munia led that, and it was a very good event. Can we go to the next slide? Yes. So looking at how we're going to work with BDF, it's to be honest, it's a blank canvas really coming out of the pandemic. We just want to engage the local scene, and obviously the talks we'll be looking at, off the top of my head, we'll be looking at how we're gonna recover within the scene, how we're going to move forward. It's going to be things like that, and then obviously putting on the great music that that helped us during lockdown. Basically, it'll be great to do that. And yeah, so there'll be talks, there'll be photography exhibition, music video premieres, and it'll be great as well to engage with BDF to figure out how to fit within the legacy of what's gone on before, basically. I think that's it. Thanks very much.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ned. Done some great events and some brilliant work. Let me take the spotlight off you. Thank you very much. Ooh, can I find Luciana? Luciana Haill will talk to us next about her project Pioneer. There we are.
Hi.
Luciana, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Here we go. The slides are ready. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Luciana. I'm based in St Leonard's in Hastings. I create artworks that explore consciousness with a focus on sleep and nostalgia and memory. And I like exploring medical and social histories, bringing back forgotten heroes and lost places. I'll be launching a new work during Brighton Digital called Pioneer, which is an iteration of a previous augmented reality artwork I created in 2018. And it will be accessible using smartphones, both Android and Apple, and combining encountering where it was originally located along the seafront with a sort of a walking tour, a procession, and also be accessible using printed postcards in the traditional style, and the code is invisibly hidden. So people will be able to have this experience from anywhere. But if they do attend Brighton Digital Festival in the city, they can actually journey along where it was originally positioned for 5 years of existence. So my work is kind of celebrating a very ambitious but very short-lived piece of Victorian engineering designed by your local engineer, Magnus Volks, who's probably more famous, of course, for the train that's still in place on the land, and probably the large clock in the middle of town. So could I have the next slide, please? So this is a classic postcard. This is a genuine one from the 50s, showing Hastings town centre. And right in the epicenter is this focus on a clock tower. This is a memorial made by Queen Victoria to Prince Albert after his passing. It was incredibly important, and they were built all over the country, similar models. It was built in 1864 and then demolished in 1973, which is a kind of a council-related decision, maybe due to traffic flow and various reasons. So unlike Hastings, the Magnus Pioneer Rail was not demolished. It suffered from a few interventions to do with other modes of transport and also costs. So could we have the next slide, please? So these are the postcards I created, funded by the Arts Council in 2018. I designed a series of 3 artworks called apparitions, and they are triggered. The experience happens when you encounter it through augmented reality. You point your smartphone at these postcards, and if you've got the free app that I've made on your phone, you can journey back in time and see the clock tower in its heyday, hear the sounds from its time, its 100 years existence or so on. And it gives a kind of nostalgia for a future that we actually can't experience because all of these things no longer exist. So combining soundscapes and 3-dimensional visual models, I'm revealing a heritage and a social memory and allowing you to kind of relive it, but in a slightly anachronistic way, hence the fact it's an art project and not a museum kind of spoon-fed piece. So if we look at the next slide, when it begins, it'll begin silently, but it's a very short video showing you what it's like looking through the phone at an apparition. Just 30 seconds, thank you. As you can see, that's it's actually a postcard I positioned on a map, this map, which the museum in Hastings kindly allowed me to utilize in the project from 1899. And it shows all 3 sites, or 2 of the sites actually that I used here. The Albert Memorial, right in the center of town near Debenhams, if anyone knows Hastings town center, where there is now nothing. And the pier of St. Leonard's, which was a pier to rival Hastings, but is not so well known about, certainly not by the new wave of residents and people who've moved to the town in the last 10 years. So it had 2 piers, just like Brighton. So if we could go to the next slide, please, we'll actually see the detail. Oh, so this is using an iPad, and this is during the launch, maybe in the museum or Gotham Alley, I can't quite read it. So my original app could only run on Apple. Now I have a little bit better funding. We can roll it out 2 separate builds for Android and Apple, which means we can reach pretty much everyone who's got a phone, maybe with 7 years of age or more modern, which is great. And the next slide will show you the type of detail. Thank you. So this is using older software called SketchUp, but it shows you what level of planning and detail we went to with my research and with building it. So I employed a designer to do this because I wasn't yet good enough to do this kind of type of model. Every leg, every dimension's recreated. Obviously the light source shows you all the railings were curved. We actually made far too much detail and it had to be greatly reduced for use on the smartphone, but I still have this model for exhibition purposes and for projecting. So we use every kind of dimension And if you use your imagination, what I'm going to show you with the Pioneer from Brighton, it'll be a similar level of detail, but for this seafaring train on stilts that you may have seen photos of around town or in old shops. So if we could see the next slide, please. I like to kind of my art kind of just slips in amongst the other postcards that are either on sale. So I give these away because, yeah, as I said, I'm lucky enough to be funded. And if you pick up a postcard on the back, there's the instruction to download for free the whole thing. So you've got a strange gift, but we kind of pop them in different places. But for Brighton Digital, I think I'd like to distribute the postcards. And I do require, if anyone's got a connection to a printing company, a run of about 10,000 would be lovely. So museums could distribute them. Lighthouse HQ, of course, the Volksrail, if they'd be so kind as to allow me to have a little, thing on the wall. And other places that anyone likes to suggest where people will pick these up, maybe from the train station all the way through town, just pick them up and encounter the work for free. I have the next slide, please. This is a video, so it's about 1 minute. It shows you the level of sound detail. Okay, what we can hear from that, we can hear monkeys because there was a zoo, a traveling zoo at the end of the pier just for maybe 6 months. Awful thing, just before the law was brought in to ban traveling zoos. There's this metal being distorted from all the storms and destruction. There's a cafe chanteuse, there's a singer from the time, Sydney, I can't remember his name, but I brought in elements of the bowling and the fishing, and so you kind of can wander around the pier, but using your phone more as a telescope. So if we go to the next slide, let's get to the Pioneer, which is what I'm actually going to make for Brighton, or for everywhere, but this is your local lost heritage. From Paston Place, this would journey all the way to Rottingdean for approximately £5. Money now, and this would take 20 minutes on a good day at low tide and could generally encounter cancellations and would be a lot slower in the high tide, where it would run on stilts but also anchored to rails, electrified, an overhead cable, and this would be slowed down by strong waves. So this artwork is exploring, using AR, augmented reality, urgent contemporary themes around innovation. Is this a flashy joyride from Victorian times, much like we have now with space exploration or getting to the edge? And it's a reflection on the ambitiousness and the fragility of Victorian engineering. So at the time, this cost £30,000 to build. That's the equivalent of 2.4 million now. And as I said earlier, it only lasted for about 5 years. So you can see all this online. There's lots of websites giving you the factual and technical detail. But as an artist, I really want to, bring to you an experience where you can visit it, almost see it from the promenade, walking along the seafront. You could walk 2 miles if you'd like to, and pointing your phone out to sea, it would be geotagged to the location. Or you can access the postcard from somewhere else and do this from the peacefulness of your own homes. So it must have been just an amazing spectacle. Like we've got SpaceX now in the sky. When you saw the Pioneer traveling through the sea, low tide and high tide, engineering of the Victorian era. Can we have another slide and just go quite quickly now so I get 4 more images. So here it is leaving the Banjo Groyne. There are the remnants at low tide that you can see if you live in the area. That's the track where it was removed. So it was cemented with wooden posts. There's the actual path we will cover. So on the launch, which is going to be something like White Night, the first Saturday, I believe, in the Brighton Digital Festival. I'll be meeting outside and we can all travel together and talk about it. I will also have talks, which will probably be on Zoom, also taking it to Birmingham, where I'm bringing the work to a new audience, and we'll be giving workshops on the AR sort of development of it. And the detail of this, it's just so absorbing when you see the people, the thrill of riding on a train without feeling seasickness, because technically it's on a rail, so you're not bobbing up and down, so you're like on a boat that's passing through the sea. So it was very, it's the sort of thing you talk about and maybe show off a little. About 100 people at a time could travel, and inside it was most plush. It had velvet curtains, it had yucca plants, upholstered seats. It even had a sun awning that could be brought out, obviously for those days when we do get a good sunshine. And it had to be controlled and driven, if it's the word, by a qualified sea captain because of the electrical nature, and it has a brake for safety. There was a request stop at Ovingdean as well. And it's just one of the most bizarre things I've encountered since I've always lived in the Southeast. And I'd like to bring this back, combining current technologies and try and experience the thrill of their ambition and encourage a discussion around this. So I look forward to some questions if anyone has later on in the chats and the Q&A. So thank you for your attention. That's my last slide.
Thank you so much, Luciana. That's incredible. It's so interesting. Thank you. So that brings us on to Helen Kennedy. I think we're having just a chat with Helen. I don't think we've got a presentation.
Yeah, no presentation, Amy.
No problem. Thank you.
Oh, it's so lovely to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, Ali. And yeah, apologies, I haven't got a presentation, partly because I'm talking about something that is all still a bit confidential, my bit of it anyway. So you'll have seen on the schedule that I'm talking about something called Digital Economy Network Plus. And so I'm just going to give you a bit of a kind of heads up about a set of opportunities that are going to be coming down the pipeline for folk like yourselves. All of the organisations and activities that have been mentioned are really relevant to this programme of work. So the EPSRC, that acronym stands for something like the Engineering and something Research Council, the one that we're probably least familiar with as a community. They've launched a new programme of research that's called a Network Plus, which is situated within their digital economy strand and has 16.25 million that they're going to give out over the next few months, with individual grants being allowed up to 3.25 million. And these are networks that are convened in order to disperse money and create activity around different thematics. There's 5 thematics, all of them are quite interesting. There's trust, identity, privacy and security. Beyond a data-driven society, sustainable digital society, equitable digital society, and then an interesting strand called content creation and consumption. And in that strand in particular, they're looking for projects that bring together engineers and creatives and artists. And that's the strand into which I'm working with some amazing academics in just wonderful places across the country, led by Drew Hemmant, who's currently working, who's a professor in Edinburgh, but worked for 20 years as the lead on Future Everything Festival that many of you might know. Really interesting, kind of, you know, not terribly distant in terms of its impetus and its underpinnings from the Brighton Digital Festival and where you see yourselves going. I think there's real connections there. We're working with academics from, and a team of people from the Turing Institute, which is really exciting, Queen Mary University kind of experimental sound engineering department, King's and Southampton and Nottingham University. I'm kind of the lead there, bringing largely the sort of fluffy artistic creative bit into that community, which is really great. And it's really exciting for Nottingham to have an arts lead into an EPSRC grant. So what we're in the process of finalising, the grant goes in tomorrow, so I won't tell you too much about it. I thought it was going in today, Ali, so I thought I was talking after it had gone in. And Ali was kind enough to offer a letter of support from Lighthouse and the BDF as a potential beneficiary or partner within the scheme of work. So what we're going to be doing is running a programme of activity for 5 years that will be thematically based around artistic and creative interventions around AI. And what we're calling it is beyond content, intelligent experiences, or next generation intelligent experiences, thinking about emotionally intelligent experiences at the heart of that, and human to human experiences, as well as machine to human experiences. It's absolutely clear, and you'll have seen lots and lots of new papers coming out from the UK research and innovation community around the centrality of AI, and this sense that technological development in that field of AI is running slightly ahead of our ability to comprehend and to trust that technology. And I suppose we fundamentally believe that artists and creatives are the ones that can both pose the most interesting questions around those new technologies, but also find ways of domesticating and challenging and critiquing those technologies in such a way as to situate them more comfortably within a framework of a decent human and sustainable human society. And I guess, so we're going to be creating opportunities for artists and also cultural partners like the festivals to come on board and work with engineers on developing new ideas. And I guess why it's particularly relevant to this community is that, I guess because Drew's at the helm and I'm also part of the team, is that we see festivals as a really key part of our vision for how we will take that network forward. So both using festivals to co-commission really interesting work, but then also using festivals as this really huge platform for dissemination that would then inform the next iteration of commissions. The projects all run as cycles, so we're imagining kind of 18-month cycles run 3 times over the 5 years, and sort of using festivals as a real means of doing that innovation, but also disseminating the work. So that's pretty much all I was going to say, but I'm hanging around for questions, and although the grant isn't awarded yet, there will be a lot of activity over the next 6 months, kind of trying to stimulate engagement with this program of work. So consider yourselves sort of primed and ready for that opportunity. So thanks very much, and lovely to be here.
Thank you, Helen. We are definitely primed now. Thank you. Thank you so much to all our brilliant speakers. So much important plans coming together for the festival in the city. We're going to have a short break, just 10 minutes. So if we can see you back here just after 1:45, go and water yourselves and have a stretch of the legs, and we will see you back here. Thank you very much.
I'm just going to hop in very quickly. I'm David. I'm kind of behind the scenes. If over the break you want to add any questions into the Q&A, then we'll be able to see them after the break.
Yeah, great. Thanks, everybody. See you soon. Thank you, everyone. Nice to see some faces returning. As I mentioned in the chat, we're going to go through everybody and invite you to show your video. We have a couple of questions already, and thanks, Luciana, you've already answered one in the break, which is so efficient, which is great. And we will go through some next steps for the festival. Amy's going to do that, and then we'll get to the questions. But it was so great to hear the variety of things that are going on and the opportunities and ways that we can work together with the festival. It's awesome. Over to you, Amy, as people start joining slowly. Is that okay to start now?
What do you think? Have we got everyone here?
I think so.
I just really quickly wanted to show you just the homepage of the website that's going to be going live on the 4th next week. Just because the application process will come through here for the citywide, city-led events. And the way it's going to work is that there will be an email, submissions at lighthouse.org.uk, which we will then respond to you with your login details for your submission. So basically, can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, all good.
So in the navigation, there will be a login, and this is where you will come for your come with your generated username and password that we will give you, and there you will fill in an online form with required fields for your submission, and then that will start the process for your submission to be approved, and then the whole thing will start, and we'll start programming it, and it will be brilliant. So all of this will be in the follow-up email. I just wanted to show you so you could see. I hope that's okay.
There's also a video, isn't there, that we've recorded?
Yes.
Showing people they're in the back end.
Which once we've got to this stage, you'll get all of that information. Yeah, this is sort of how to upload everything, but it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's great. So everybody is welcome to be part of the festival. There is a set of criteria which we will share also, just inviting you to think about as much as possible to try and make it as accessible as possible and to reach as wide an audience as we can. So I'm going to move on to the questions. This is the best bit. John Pratty, welcome. So great to see you.
Hi there.
John was basically the first guru of BDF, like when it all started off. He was the chair for a very long time and really made some great moves. So it's brilliant you're here. And you had a question for Sam. Do you want me to read it out? You don't want me to read it out. You could.
No, you read it out, Ali, because I can't remember it.
Okay, so John's question for Sam was, who are typically the positive influences around places where digital democracies are taking place? And who are the negative influences? I've been running a project in Hastings to take over the town's free Wi-Fi for public good. It's been difficult.
Yeah, there was an exclamation mark there. Really, what I'm talking about, what I'm talking about really is how do we reach across to the people, for example, in local councils or even sort of regional authorities, and get them on side with this kind of stuff, because they have an entirely different set of concerns and understanding of what digital is in terms of community and place. So Sam, what do you know? What are your observations about that?
I'm nervous to be answering a question for a guru, but I'll give it my best shot, to be honest. I think in that instance, it's can be about the diversity of your partnerships. And I think, you asked the question around the places where digital democracies is taking place. And I think the partnership development work that festivals do is really, really consistent. But there is, what we found with developing sort of multi-stakeholder partnerships is you do have to look at where the intersection of values are, because they're looking to achieve their own outcomes. And I think having worked in places where realizing that actually the Wi-Fi often carries like the same accountability as some public spaces. But what I would suggest with something like that is it's about thinking about where you're making the case from their perspective. And I think where you're talking about for public good, maybe it's about sort of starting from a vision perspective and then building a set of partnerships around it. If you're talking about good from a well-being perspective, how could you potentially build relationships with a number of agencies who could benefit from that? I'd also suggest as well that if you're looking to build a local authority relationship, then the DMOs, the destination management organizations, it depends what the nature of the work is that you're doing. But if you can think of how it can make the case of actually, are you supplementing tourist experience to Hastings? Are you building a kind of digital holistic atmosphere around it as well? Or is it something that could potentially drive people to place and connect into a wider hub of people, in which case, talk to local authorities about how this could benefit economic impact. I think where you can gather that information around economic impact or how you are connecting to the visitor economy in that way, you tend to find with those partnerships that you're building that there's a kind of clearer crossover which starts from a position of confidence that you can build around.
I think that's really helpful. I think that there's two branches to this discussion. One of them goes off in the direction of ethics and big data organizations and Facebook, and where cultural organizations might want to be proofed against bad use of data by the great big giant digital companies. I mean, cultural organizations now have to start planning for ethical use of data. And, you know, in a local context, that's really hard because no one can afford to use anything other than Facebook or Instagram or whatever. But there's another branch to this discussion. Polly might be able to add to this, because Polly, in one of her previous incarnations, was arts officer across Hastings and probably observed from the sidelines as we were trying to create a kind of ethical digital community internet space. I mean, what do you think about it, Polly, in terms of what Sam's talked about too? I'm sorry, I'm hijacking the discussion here. Just a really short response, Polly.
Sure. I think you highlighted the thing which comes to my mind most from working in that context, which is thinking about how the objectives that some of those stakeholders have, and councils work in very particular ways, and I think John, that you and your partnership did that in certain ways, but really thinking, how do you just make sure that you're meeting that while still delivering what it is that you're trying to do? And I think one of the beauties about the digital space is that there is more room to be able to have those different things sitting side by side than sometimes within live events. So there is that capacity in the digital space to do what you want to do while also understanding and ticking those boxes for big institutions that simply have to work in that way, or particularly public institutions. But trying to get a really clear idea of what it is they want you to deliver, of course, is the key thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sam, and thanks, Polly.
I've got one more bit of advice as well. Often with the kind of city Wi-Fi infrastructure that they bring in, they it's quite an off-the-shelf infrastructure, and then often don't always have the means to kind of navigate it. So that one of the ways you can do that is think about your project, because one of the offers we get consistently is maybe a redirection from a splash page. So maybe it might be about building your own infrastructure and just asking them for signposting.
Well, actually, that's already been, we've been doing that kind of stuff. I feel like I should get off the forum now, because I've got lots of other people to talk to. But yeah, we've been doing that kind of stuff. This is a thing that's going to run and run. And you've got people like Matt Locke and his public media stack project. Yeah. So there's lots of people out there who want to create local Wi-Fi exchanges, local digital exchanges, and have a completely different kind of public service ethic to the way that media is served locally.
Yeah.
End of my talk.
No, it's good. Thanks, John. And that leads me really nicely to, we've got two more questions. So one from an anonymous attendee. So I will read it out unless somebody wants to put their hand up. And the question is, do you have to live in Brighton to be part of the festival to exhibit art? And the answer is no, you do not. And the reason why John's conversation around city planning and city opportunities is that we are hoping to develop partnerships with other cities, other regions, other places and spaces all around the UK. We're in discussions with Ada and Worthing Council, who are awesome, and Eastbourne, and obviously we've got Luciana, who lives in Hastings. So the connections are far-reaching. We're also in discussions with the British Council in Brazil on a project that we've already delivered for women in music and music production. So it's really about aligning the opportunities and making sure that there's many opportunities to commissions and connected to artists to make work, but also connecting to creative and tech businesses in and around the region. So when we say Brighton Digital Festival, we say Brighton in the broadest sense of the term. I hope my internet isn't glitching too badly. The second question is from David and Julie Greenfield. David and Julie, would you like to say your question? It'd be great to hear you. Hi, David.
Hello, how are you all?
Great to see you.
Great presentations, thank you all. I'm probably going to throw a slightly different spin on the questions. We run Tech Take Back in Brighton and Hove, so we're collecting end-of-life hardware, data erasing it, refurbishing it, and then getting it out to social charities and vulnerable families and everything like that. And there's a huge opportunity, I think, at the moment, particularly given we've just gone through the pandemic, and with the fact that we're seeing huge challenges to our weather systems as a result of climate change, as to how we can use the Brighton Digital Festival to enhance and highlight the role that digital plays in as a solution for climate change and a solution for something called circular economy, which some of you may not know about, but I'm not going to present on because I've already told Ali about this earlier today. Yeah, I just really would welcome presenters' thoughts on how we can actually highlight digital as a solution for climate change, because there's so many people that are interested in this at the moment.
Helen, would you like to, are you there? I think you might be good.
I'm here. Hold on, I'll just put my little video on. That's a great question. I actually took part in a live event with the Minister for Bays last week, which was specifically about the role that the creative sector can play in the route towards net zero, which was really interesting. And obviously we've got COP26 coming up in Glasgow in November, so there's quite a bit of momentum around this. The Creative Industries Federation have also done a big piece of work around this. It's either published or just about to be published, their report on what role the creative industries can play. I think in terms of thinking about installations, that you're specifically asking that question around what can you do. I don't have an absolute answer, but I think one of the things that kind of needs to be evidenced are projects that are engaging young people, that are positive, that are hopeful. So if there are examples like that that can be included, that can be used in order to engage people with the issue, then that's obviously a great example. I'm working on a project around virtual production and in relation to green production. So thinking about the ways in which, green methods of using that circular economy in terms of set design, set reuse, etc., all the way through the production pipeline, can also be a really strong contender in the green sector and also drive innovation there, and potentially further, have the UK as a bit of a showcase for that. So Albert are an organisation that are leading on that. So I'm not sure that that quite fits the bill in terms of installations, but there's certainly some interesting work to be done around kind of screen-based work. And I guess in Brighton, you've obviously got Onca, who would be interesting to hook up with, to think about how they might, how have they responded to the digital moment during the lockdown? What resources have they been using? What new messaging have they been doing? Which I guess would be really interesting.
That's fascinating. I'd love to have a longer chat with you. I'll do a John and say I don't want to hog the screen, but I think there's lots of synergies here, and everything you just said, Helen. I've got a number of different roles, national and international, and this is absolute key, that collaboration and sharing knowledge and making sure that we've got aligned visions. And I've just seen the point from John on Julie's bicycle. We're doing some really interesting stuff as well in this area. I'm coordinating 25 circular economy clubs around the UK, and I run the Brighton one and the London one. And there's huge opportunities, I think, to bring together the digital art culture and some of the less digitally and less arty sustainability and green groups. And that would be really something nice to do. But Ali and I and Amy and Julie have already had a chat today, and hopefully we can help do that as well.
Yeah, great. Polly, did you want to say something? Your hand was up. Yeah.
Just quickly, yeah, I think there's two elements to it. I think there's a role for those of us who are in a position to be commissioning work to put certain things in place as commissioners as to what we expect those delivering projects to do. So certainly one of the lenses for the ABCD plan is sustainability, and it's a requirement of anyone who will be awarded any of the commissions that they can show how they are responding to this. That's a very open brief, but we want to know that people are thinking about it and responding to it. And then I think there's an interesting conversation to then happen about how that's communicated to audiences, because the more I think people realise that these considerations are at the forefront of people's minds, the more it becomes part of the public discourse. So we aren't sure how we're going to do that yet, but there's certainly an interest in communicating how the artists and organisations that will commission are coming up with interesting responses to the whole issue of sustainability.
Great, thank you, Polly. Some questions are coming up in the chat, which is great. James Michael Maltby, would you like to ask your question? Yeah, hiya.
Hello, yeah, sure, yeah. Firstly, thank you so much for the presentation. It's been absolutely fascinating hearing all the plans and some of the ideas for the festival. I was just wondering, elephant in the room, I guess, bearing in mind social distancing, bearing in mind in the pandemic, I was just wondering if there's any preference for in-person versus remote digital installations for this year, and whether you'd be sharing any guidance or advice for our submissions.
Yeah, so we're entering with trepidation, of course. Things are changing by the day, hour, second, and I think it's a combined approach for in real life and virtual. Have a backup of virtual, but much of the Digital Democracies programme is public space and use of public space and public realm space, so there's a safety to that. We've also had the honour of doing a lot of projects with Brighton Festival in May, obviously different season, but we do have codes of conduct, advice. We can totally support you if you're if it's perhaps the first time that you've presented your work in the public realm or in a new space. There's the team at Lighthouse ready, willing and able to help you. So yeah, is the answer. But in rooms, it's, yeah, I'm not sure. I do know that there's events going on at the moment in spaces. We are in discussions with the Old Market, who are an amazing venue, and it would be great to work with them as much as possible. Places like Fabrica, of course. So yeah, over the next few days and weeks, we'll be populating the BDF website with venues that are available for people to get in touch with. So yeah, great, thank you. 2 more messages. Anyone else want to put their virtual raise hand up or their in real life hand to ask any questions? I hope that answered your question, James, by the way.
It did, yes. I look forward to hearing more when the website gets launched.
Cool, thanks. There's so much great information in this chat. We will share this, won't we, David? When we put it on our website, we'll put it all in there. Great. Any more questions? I know we're over time now. Are we happy? Are we excited? Super. Great. John, you were like on a roller coaster. Marvellous. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you to everyone that contributed with your presentations and speaking about the great ways that we can align and make this festival as special as possible. Looking forward to what happens and getting some great, good stuff done together. Thanks, David. Can you wave? David's been in the background being a tech whiz. So thank you very much. Thanks, Amy, Helen, Polly, Tarek, Luciana, Sam. Thank you all. Lovely to see you. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you. Bye.